Hello everyone, welcome to A Clear Perspective. I'm Serene. The biggest news recently is the conviction of Derek Chauvin on third and second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. Chauvin is the police officer involved in the Floyd case that sparked the BLM riots last year. George Floyd robbed a pregnant woman at gunpoint and took drugs when he used a counterfeit $20 bill, only to be caught by police after it was reported. The police officer Derek Chauvin put his knee on Floyd to restrain him, and he later died. There are many different explanations on the cause of his death. Some say he died of a drug overdose, while others say it was due to Chauvin's knee. I won't make any judgments, but I will give my opinion on this matter. The judicial system that heard the case has been under enormous pressure. Before the case was even heard on trial, BLM and Antifa had already been acting up all over the country. In some places, they looted stores and did whatever they wanted. They also issued a statement that said, if the police were not convicted, all hell would break loose and the buildings would be set on fire. And the Democratic Party is pushing this agenda. The jury consisted of 12 people. Generally speaking, the jury's verdict is very difficult to overturn because their decisions need to be unanimous. However, lawyer Alan Dershowitz said Representative Maxine Waters used the KKK tactics to intimidate the jury in the Derek Chauvin trial. Dershowitz said during an interview with Newsmax.
Well, first of all, the judge should have granted the motion for a mistrial based on the efforts of Congresswoman Waters to influence the jury. Her message was clearly intended to get to the jury. If you acquit, or if you find a charge less than murder, we will burn down your buildings. We will burn down your businesses. We will attack you. We will do what happened to the witness, blood on their door.
Dershowitz also suggested Chauvin to appeal.
The issue will go to the Court of Appeals. And will the Court of Appeals have the courage to reverse this conviction on the ground? There are many grounds of appeal, but on the ground that the jury was subjected to intimidation tactics, not only by Waters, but by others as well, who threatened violence in the event of an acquittal or a lesser charge than murder.
When Trump first took office, Maxine Waters stood on the street and called on people to harass Trump officials. She said,
and if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. We've got to get the children.
This is incitement to violence. On April 19th, she rushed from Washington, D.C. to Minnesota, joined the BLM protesters in the street, and said, I hope we get a verdict that says guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away. We've got to stay on the street. We get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. Again, she blatantly incited violence, just like she did a few years ago. Trump was accused of inciting violence when he told his supporters to protest peacefully. But when Maxine Waters wanted protesters to be more aggressive and confrontational, she faced no consequences. Kevin McCarthy, the House Minority Leader, tried to pass a resolution in Congress to censor Maxine Waters for her words. But the resolution failed, with all 216 Democrats voting against and all 210 Republicans voting for it. The Democrats are blatantly showing their double standards. When Trump spoke rational words, he faced impeachment. But when Democrats literally incite violence, they are protected. Our society is a mess now. President Biden even said that he was praying for a guilty verdict in this trial. After the verdict, Nancy Pelosi thanked George Floyd for sacrificing his life. We all know that if Chauvin was acquitted, the BLM would have burned the Brooklyn Center to the ground in Minnesota. Right now, stores look similar to what they were like right before the general election results were announced. By then, people were worried that if Trump were re-elected, BLM would smash stores and burn down the streets. Many stores covered up their windows with plywood. The country is in such a tense state that it would be hard for the jury to make fair decisions. Usually, during a hearing, the jury is supposed to be isolated and sequestered to avoid being influenced by the public. The juries would be denied from watching the news, and they shouldn't be subject to any pressure from the society. But this time, all of these rules were broken. Many Democratic lawmakers, including President Biden, were hinting at what the verdict should be. At the same time, violence was prevalent on the streets. How is it possible that the juries could be independent and uninfluenced? Another thing is that if the jury finds that Chauvin is not guilty, their personal information will be leaked, making them targets for retaliation. The media is said to have gotten hold of the names, identities, home addresses, and the phone numbers of these juries in the case. Once a verdict of not guilty is reached, these people's houses may be burnt down. With this intimidation, everyone in the judicial system, from the judge to the jury, felt threatened. They were probably scared and forced to submit unless they have tremendous courage. BLM previously sued Soros. After Trump stepped down, the Democratic Party may have thought of abandoning BLM and Antifa, thinking that they were no longer needed. Later, there was news that the Democratic Party's top level looked into the situation. They decided to continue using BLM and Antifa as they were still useful. So they continued to give them money, a lot of money. In the communist countries, some politicians are hiring thugs. Whenever there is a need, these thugs will be sent to action. Does the same thing happen in America? Is the U.S. judiciary still independent? It's very dangerous if a society has no independent judiciary and no place for justice. I come from a communist country. I understand that if bandits and riots are running rampant in the society and are supported by political figures and tycoons, it will be hard to have fairness and justice. What happened in Hong Kong is a perfect example. There were communist bandits disguised as citizens and came out to beat up students. There is a lot of information and evidence to support this, but the judicial system in Hong Kong turned a blind eye to it. This is a common phenomenon when the Communist Party is in power. Justice cannot be fulfilled. America today seems to be unrecognizable. Thugs who smash, steal, and even kill on the streets can be labeled as fighters for democracy, freedom, or equality. They not only have the support of political forces and financial aid, but also support from the mainstream media. I would say this incident shows that the U.S. judicial system is no longer independent from politics. Justice is the key to keeping social order. Chauvin faces 40 to 75 years in jail. Some police officers might wonder if they should even enforce the law, saying that they may get sentenced to jail. Then crime will proliferate. No one will be safe. If there are no police, everyone will have a gun. Then there will be more casualties. People may wish BLM would cool out for a while, saying that the perpetrator has been brought to justice. However, BLM didn't retreat either. They are gathering again to demand defunding the police. Seattle's Antifa wanted a no-cop zone, like the Paris Commune. They wanted to blockade a few blocks as a no-cop zone and have autonomy. Their slogan is, "All cops are Chauvin." That is, all cops are criminals and should go to jail. Very crazy. To have peace, a society needs morality, fairness, and justice. The hope for society now is that more people can bravely stand up for justice. Do not give up the God-given right to speak. Lastly, we would like to remind our viewers again that our platform may be restricted on social media. We would like to recommend the YouMaker platform to everyone. Our videos are available on YouMaker. Please subscribe, and we hope to see you there. Thank you for watching. See you next time.